Hey everybody, how's it going today? This is Dwayne Allen, and I'm here to do another gear review. And this time I actually picked a guitar that I've had for a long time, and for some crazy reason I never did a gear review on it. And if any of you have seen any of my other videos, I've definitely been using this guitar for quite a long time. It's actually, I would kind of consider it my number one. I'm very, very fortunate that I have a nice collection of really nice guitars, but if I had to get down to one or two or three guitars, I think I'd have to pick this one as my number one. I love this thing. This is the Collings I35LC. I think I got this guitar back in 2010, 2011, something like that. I can't remember the year, but this is an earlier one. And the story is, as a lot of gear heads do, and you go on the internet and you research guitars, and you're always looking for the next best thing. And these Collings electrics started to pop up. I mean, we all knew about a Calling. We all knew about Collings before from acoustic guitars, but once they started putting out electrics, they got a lot of attention right off the bat. And me being curious, I had to try a couple, and it really piqued my interest. I was, like blown away by how amazing they were. And even at that time, they were pretty expensive, so I had to really think about it and figure out and scheme how I was going to get one of these things. A friend of mine had a friend who had one that I could really sit down and really check out. And what was interesting is he also had an original 1964 Gibson ES335. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll check out the Collings. I'll play it against the Gibson. I mean, the Gibson is something that we all want, but I can't really afford anything, early 60s by Gibson, so it was pretty easy choice. But I was able to play them back to back, the Collings and the Gibson. And I remember at that time I had to drive like an hour to get there down in San Clemente. I live in California. Beautiful area, San Clemente. Anyway, I went to this guy's house, and I played both guitars back to back. And the 64 335 was really nice, but this Collings just blew my mind. It was just more comfortable, more ergonomic, sounded, I think, better, had more sustain, more resonance. It blew my mind. And after that day, I went home and I started to scheme, okay, which guitars am I going to sell? I ended up selling like three guitars to pick this up, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. So this is it. This is the Collings I35 LC. This isn't, like I said, this is an older one. So I had heard that a few years ago they changed their laminate recipe, and the new ones are a little different. I don't know much about that. I haven't tried any of the newer ones. I'm sure they're amazing because I've gotten. That's the other thing, if you get your first callings, you might end up getting more. And now I have callings fever, and you may have seen my other demo videos. I have a few callings, and they're definitely my favorite guitar brand out there for sure. Anyway, this is an I35 LC. LC means Laminate Construction. They devise their own laminate recipe. I'm assuming it's to like vintage specs or something like that. But it's laminated maple back and sides. It's got this really cool grain, even though it's darker, but I love it. Honduran mahogany neck, Indian rosewood fretboard. Collings, their scale is similar to Gibson. I think Gibson is like 24 and 3/4. This one is like 24 and 7/8. So it's a tiny bit longer than a Gibson. But there's something about that. I think it helps the guitar stay in tune better because I've owned a lot of Gibsons as well. And I've had tuning issues with a lot of the Gibsons I've had. Um, the I know the Collings headstock is a different angle than the Gibson one, which is why it probably maybe stay in tune a little bit better. But I love these Ivroid tuning pegs. I think they're made by Goto. But when you pick up one of these guitars, it's just perfection all around. One of my guitar tech that I really respect, he had told me he had worked on some Collings guitars, and he just said they were just perfect. He couldn't find anything wrong with them. Even in the insides, when you look in the wiring, it's just perfection. This one has the standard Lawler wind Imperials and Tone Pro's bridge and tailpiece. And I forget which caps they use, but Collings only uses the top of the line on everything. So I have to look up what are the different brands for the caps. But a word about these Lawler Standard Imperials. I really love these pickups. They were really kind of in fashion back then, and now as the gear world goes, other pickups have come in fashion maybe more lately. But I swear by these original Wind Imperials. To me, they sound very PAF, very vintage sounding, but the bridge pickup has a certain amount of balls to it that's just fantastic. You know, I have some other guitars with some lower output PAF pickups, and sometimes the bridge pickup is a little bit anemic for my taste. This thing is just perfect. It's not thick sounding. It's still clear, but when you put overdrive on it, it's just perfect. So I'm just going to fool around a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit about why I love this guitar, why it's become my number one. But I'll play first, and then we'll talk about it. So I'm going to do the neck pickup with the tone almost all the way up. I never go the tone all the way up because it's just too bright. But nice and clear. Sustain on this guitar is just amazing. In the words of the great Nigel Tufnell, you can play a note and go out for a bite to eat and come back late and it's, you know, still going, still hear it right. Anyway, it's my terrible British accent. But so great sustain, nice and clear, and I think you can play almost any kind of music with this guitar. I don't know if you'd want to play metal with it, but I guess you could if you wanted to. But I play a lot of jazz, and all I do, so it's nice and clear. So it's got a nice clear sound to it. I'm going to turn the tone down a little bit, and it's got a great dark jazz sound. Nice warm sound to it. But one thing that's different than a lot of Gibsons that I've had is when you turn the tone down on a Gibson, it tends to turn into mud. It's just like, you know, this one has plenty of sound to it. Lots of overtones. So I've used this guitar on countless gigs. I mean, this thing, I've had it for about 10 years, and I've really put some time into it. It doesn't look too beat up. I lovingly take care of it and wipe it down and clean it, but it's definitely seen some action. And you know, oh, I wanted to point out, it's a 15-inch body as opposed to a Gibson 16-inch. So the Gibson 335 is a 16-inch. This is a 15-inch, so it's a little bit smaller. It looks kind of like a 335, right? I have another Collings semi-hollow that you may have seen my other review for. It's called the SoCo16LC, and that one sounds even closer to a Gibson 335. It's got a 16-inch body. It does have a single cut up here, so it looks a little different. This one looks a little bit more like a Gibson, but I think that one might sound a little closer. So because the body's bigger, it has a little bit of a deeper sound. It has a little bit more low end, more lower mids. This guitar I love because it doesn't get muddy and tubby sounding like a 335 can get at times. It has plenty of low end, but it doesn't get muddy, you know, and it cuts through a band really well. Let me put it in the middle position. So middle position, really great spank to it. in there. Great for funk. Really punchy, smacky. Great sound. I like one of the benefits of having a guitar with 4 volumes and 4 knobs, 2 volume, 2 tone, is you can get any kind of combination. So I can go like real dark on the bridge pickup, but bright on the neck pickup. Or I can go bright on the bridge, dark on the neck. Or you can go dark on both of them, which isn't cool sound. So, bridge pickup, nice and bright. Lots of clarity. They always say that a good humbucker guitar, like an old school humbucker PAF guitar, sounds like a fat telly. I agree with that. I think this sounds kind of like a fat telly. Darken the bridge up a little bit. Let's try some overdrive with this. So I'm gonna keep the tones kind of somewhere in the middle, so it's not too dark, not too bright. If you're interested, the amp that I'm using is a Car Sportsman. It's an amazing amp. I've been using that one for years. It's kind of like their take on a Fender Princeton, but it's 20 watts. And I'm using my faithful Maxon 808, which is basically like a vintage tube screamer. So let's keep it on the bridge. Nice fat grind to it, but not bright, not too fat. It's not like a DiMarzio Super Distortion or anything like that. Let's go in the middle. Tones around the same. Making crap up as I go along. Put it on the neck. Oh, that was the neck. I'm sorry. I'm on the neck position. I thought I was in the middle. I thought it was kind of dark sounding. So that's in the neck position. Now we'll do it in the middle. Plenty of sustain. Amp's not even that loud. guitar. A couple reasons. So it's very ergonomic, light guitar, really resonant, very sits in your lap, nice and easy. Doesn't neck dive, anything like that. Really comfortable to play. Collings has my favorite neck out of any electric guitar company. I don't know how you would describe it. Kind of like a 59 neck, but really not that fat. I have a Gibson with a 59 neck, and that thing's like a club. This thing is thick, but it's not. Doesn't have too much shoulder to it. It's just easy to play. The fretwork on any Collings is like second to none. It's spectacular. No buzzing notes anywhere. And that really affects the resonance of a guitar. I've seen in the past when I get a fret job done to a guitar and they're really polished, it almost makes the guitar resonate more. It's a weird type of thing. It makes it sound better, actually. So anyway, this is my Collings I35LC. It's my number one. Can't believe I've never done a gear review with it. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and thanks for listening.